we present Mrs. Jiggles, The Early Years. Episode 3. Mrs. Jiggles stirs it up.
Wah! Wah!
Turn the baby upside down, Mary. Maybe he don't know he's in Australia.
He was born here, Mrs. Jiggles.
Oh, yes. Well, best leave him then, and I'll get on with my story.
I can't ignore a crying baby.
Oh, it's easy. What you do is you put your fingers in your ears and you pull your cap down over your eyes.
That stopped him.
Eh?
I said that stopped him.
He stopped.
He thought you looked funny.
Well, he looks pretty funny himself. Now, let me tell you what happened after I toppled into the Thames and was carried away by its strong currents. I was taken on and on and on until a huge wave deposited me on the banks of the river by Mr. Wobble's jelly factory. I was just clambering up when I slipped and I fell into a vat of jelly. I would have drowned in it, but then I felt this billock.
What's a billock, Mrs. Jiggles?
It's a long pole with a hook on the end.
My name is Julek. I'm a very long Polish man from Poland. I shall stretch out my long arm, and you must take hold of my hook. Careful, it is sharp.
Oh, what happened?
You fell into the world-famous giant jelly moulds of Mr. Wobble's world-famous jelly factory. Oh, and call me Bill.
At that moment Mr. Wobble himself arrived.
The jelly flow has stopped. The obstruction must be removed at once. Nothing must stop the jelly.
Well, pardon me, I'm sure. But if a lady can't float down the Thames without getting swept up into jelly moulds, it's a pretty poor show.
My jelly, my lovely strawberry jelly, is turning yellow. It's the colour of
And it was.
More custard from your chin, Mrs. Jiggles?
No. As it happens, I had the secret custard ingredients on my person, and somehow they was drawn to the jelly like as if though they was made for each other. Well, it didn't take Mr. Wobble long to realise that his silly jelly tastes much better with a drop of custard.
This is the perfect partnership. Marry me. Become the second Mrs. Wobble.
What happened to the first one?
Alas, she left me for another.
Another what?
Another purveyor of sweet goods. I never talk of them.
Oh, I don't know about marriage, but I do need a place to stay and a ready source of income. So it came about that the world-famous company of custard jelly makers, Wiggles, came into being.
Wiggles? You're a part of the world-famous Wiggles trifle chain, Mrs. Jiggles.
No, that's another Wiggles. They stole our idea and called it trifle. Oh, it's a cruel world, Mary.
Yes, Mrs. Jiggles.
Anyway, for a while things was going lovely. We got hired to supply our delicious mixture of jelly and custard, which we called Justard, 'cause it was just hard enough, without being too hard, to a famous hotel.
God, was it the Ritz?
No, not him.
The Savoy? I can't think of any more.
Claridge's.
Claridge's?
That's another one, yes. No.
Well, where then, Mrs. Jiggles?
The Brown Cow in Walthamstow. They do a lovely pie and eel mash with your pint.
Oh.
But I'm getting ahead of myself. Marry you?
I've always wanted the secret of custard to augment my superlatively fine jellies.
Oh.
But only one woman in the whole of London is thought to have the recipe. It was said she'll take it with her to the grave.
Oh, she did? Twice? But it's mine now, along with several other recipes I've not had time to look at. Chimney sweep stew, fig and prune surprise, sausage in a hat.
All tempting, I'm sure, but
It is your custard I want you for.
Fair enough. So little Miss Jiggles became slightly larger Mrs. Wobble. Or rather...
If anyone here present knoweth any just impediment why Esmeralda Jiggles and William Arthur Wobble should not be...
I do.
Mrs. Gout!
That's right.
I thought you was dead again.
Yes, I know you did, but I'm not. And I want my recipe book back.
Mrs. Gout, the original owner of the custard recipe?
But it's mine now, Wobble dear.
It's mine.
Then I shall marry you.
Eh?
No, you shan't. You shan't have him or the recipes. I destroyed the book, Mary. Then and there I ripped it up.
It's all up here, Jiggles, in me head. I don't need the book no more, see? Not after all the times I've made those recipes. You'll have to kill me too.
So I stuck her head in the font. It's empty.
Yes, that's right. Never keep a full font. Don't you know nothing, Jiggles?
Did he marry her, Mrs. Jiggles?
He did. And regretted it. Turns out there was nothing in her head at all. Meanwhile, I went my lonely way. I had a little money from the custard, but it wouldn't last forever. No husband, no business, no custard. My only hope was to find employment somewhere.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Clump.
Jiggles, you? How dare you return here?
But I had to, Mary. You see, I remembered what you might have forgotten. Mrs. Ganglion, the cook who replaced Mrs. Gout, had stolen the custard recipe from me, but I'd retained the original book and preliminary custard notes. She, lacking the business initiative of myself and the jelly combination of Mr. Wobble, confined her custarding solely to the household. Well, I had to get taken on again, and then somehow steal the recipe back.
So, here we are again, Jiggles.
Yes, me ladyships.
Oh, it isn't alternate Thursday, is it? Where you feel compelled by some backward country superstition to answer yes or no to every question alternately?
Oh, no, me lady madamship.
Good. I understand you want to return to work here, after all that happened last time.
Yes, madam.
Can you think of one good reason why you should?
No, madam.
Henry does still like his custard?
Oh, yes, madam, bless his little fat stomach.
And I'm afraid to say Mrs. Ganglion has rather let us down.
No, madam.
She disappeared one night with all the silver cutlery.
Oh, all them spoons.
I assume you still have the custard recipe safe?
Yes, madam.
Mrs. Ganglion didn't possess the only remaining copy?
No, madam.
Then you may start at once.
Oh, yes, madam. Now I had a problem, Mary. I was there to steal back me recipes, but if Mrs. Ganglion had gone, what should I do? Well, I have to confess, I felt a jiggle coming on.
Off you go then, Jiggles.
Oh, yes, madam.
You do wish to be re-employed, do you not?
No, no, I mean, yes. Oh,
it is alternate Thursday, isn't it? I knew it.
Yes, no, I mean, yes, no, yes, no, oh, I'm a jiggling, I'm a jiggling, I jiggled so much the roof shook, the rafters rafted. I thought the whole house was going to come down on our heads.
What happened, Mrs. Jiggles?
The whole house came down on our heads.
Get her out of here, Glump, quickly.
I'll try, lady.
Then it happened, Mary. The ceiling collapsed, and who do you think fell on top of us?
Mrs. Ganglion.
Mrs. Ganglion, spoons and all.
Cool. What on earth does it all mean, Mrs. Jiggles?
Well, Mary, I'll tell ya. You better change the baby first. There's a nice quiet one down the road. They'll never know the difference.